Good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to our council meeting tonight. I'd like to call our meeting to order. Would everybody please stand? We can go into our prayer, and right from the prayer, we're going to the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Higginbotham, call roll, please.
Councilman Roberts.
Here.
President Logan.
Here.
Councilman Hinton.
Here.
Councilman Davis.
Here.
Councilman Hogg.
Here.
You have a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you. We have a presentation from the mayor's office. I'll defer to the Honorable Mayor Donna Aaron.
Tonight is Bruce's last night as city administrator as far as council meetings are concerned. His last day with the city will be Friday, and I would ask him to come down. He's decided he likes private life better than public life. Bruce, on behalf of the City Council and myself, present you this plaque that says, Bruce Higginbotham, with sincere appreciation and gratitude for 2 years of service with the City of Northport as City Administrator. Thank you. She will miss you.
Item 5 is approval of our agenda. Is there a meeting to approve the agenda as printed?
Motion to approve.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, thank you, Mayor. Item 5, ladies and gentlemen, I know we were talking in our pre-meeting very briefly about a couple items that we were looking at either to delete or table. So I did know I wanted to make sure before we go through any voting on the approval of the agenda that we discuss those two items very quickly. So, Mayor, I didn't know if there were two items that you wanted to look at, maybe tabling, or a member of council had a couple items on the agenda.
I think we need to, for at least the time being, the discussion of interim city administrator and interim city engineer.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Let the record show that the Mayor's office asked the council to consider tabling the appointment of interim city administrator and interim city engineer. And again, the motion was by Councilman Hogg. Is that right?
Yes.
All right, Councilman, do you want to, on the record, making sure that you approve or motion for that amended motion from the mayor's office?
I will move to approve with the 8B2 and 8B3 as per the mayor's request.
All right, thank you.
Mr. President, I would like to request that we move 8A1 in front of 7A4, mostly for continuity going into that discussion. If we choose to vote or do the first reading, we can do the first reading after that item, but I think the presentation should be made before 7A4.
All right. Councilman Hogg, you want to add that, moving 8A1 in front of 7A4. That's a first reading, which is 8A1. That will be actually after the third item of under old business or unfinished business, and then we will go back to the second reading.
I will make the motion to approve the agenda based on the mayor and Councilman Roberts' discussion.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Davis. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Higginbotham.
Councilman Hogg,
Yes.
Councilman Davis,
Yes.
Councilman Roberts,
Yes.
President Logan,
Yes.
Councilman Hinton.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Unfinished business, 7A1 is a second reading of annexation of 1/2 acres located at 6600 Flatwoods Road. Ms. Ram.
Yes, sir. This request comes from Ms. Rioma Sanders. She is requesting annexation of her residence at 6600 Flatwoods Road. That is a half of an acre, as you stated. The initial zoning for this parcel will be agricultural and does come with a favorable recommendation from the Planning Commission.
All right, thank you. Is there a motion to grant that request to annex that 1/2 acre?
I'll make that motion.
That's a motion by Councilman Roberts. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Hinton. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Higginbotham.
Councilman Roberts,
Yes.
Councilman Hinton,
Yes.
President Logan,
Yes.
Councilman Davis,
Yes.
Councilman Hogg.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Second item under unfinished business is a second reading of an annexation of .83 acres located at 6724 Flatwoods Road. Ms. Ram.
Yes, sir. This request comes from Mr. Billy Williamson and Miss Daphne Hardy. They do request annexation of their residence located at 6724 Flatwoods Road. That initial zoning for that parcel is agricultural, and it does come with a favorable recommendation from the Planning Commission.
All right, thank you. Is there a motion to grant the request to annex 0.83 acres at 6724 Flatwoods Road?
Move to approve.
That's a motion by Councilman Hogg. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Davis. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Higginbotham.
Councilman Hogg,
Yes.
Councilman Davis,
Yes.
Councilman Roberts,
Yes.
Councilman Logan,
Yes.
Councilman Hinton.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Third item is a second reading of an ordinance amending section 66131, subsection 1 of the Northport Code relating to the levy of transit occupancy tax. Mr. Higginbotham.
Yes, sir. This is your second reading on this potential tax increase. You discussed it at the last council meeting and had a first reading. At that meeting, this is, if you remember, currently a 9 cent tax. The discussion was going to 11 cents. That would be a 2 cent increase. You currently receive $151,563 on lodging tax, and the increase of 2 cents would bring that to an additional $33,680.
Thank you, Mr. Higginbotham. Again, this is the lodging tax, which doesn't affect, this is all outside persons coming in, renting hotel rooms and things of that nature. So, again, is there a motion to adopt the ordinance amending section 66-131, subsection 1?
Mr. President, I would like to ask for a slight amendment. Since we're going to be discussing the usage tax, I would like to ask that that money remain unearmarked. I think earmarking is a bad practice in general, and I think when we discuss the other 1 cent usages, it may make more sense.
All right. So, Councilman Roberts wanted to look at amending the actual motion or the ordinance amending this particular section 66131 subsection 1 to make sure that the earmark regarding said levy of transit occupancy tax is not put on it. So that's, is that a motion, Councilman, or I didn't?
I can make that a motion, yes, sir.
All right, that's a motion by Councilman Roberts. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Hogg. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Higginbotham.
Councilman Roberts,
Yes.
Councilman Hogg,
Yes.
President Logan,
Yes.
Councilman Hinton,
Yes.
Councilman Davis.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, what we're going to do next, ladies and gentlemen, is jump to item under new business is 8A1. It's a first reading. We're just going to skip one. It's 8A1. It's a first reading of an ordinance for the 1 cent sales tax revenue under usage, specific usage. Again, no action is needed, but if a member of council wanted to offer this up for a first reading, again, this is the first reading of an ordinance for 1 cent sales tax revenue usage.
President Logan, I'd like to offer it up for first reading with visual presentation of what we're discussing.
All right. Let the record show Councilman Roberts has offered that up for a first reading with visual representation and clarification.
Yes, sir. So looking at the proposal for 1 cent sales tax usage, there's a series of slides that we put together with respect to the 1 cent. The total effect is change Northport total sales tax from 9 to 10. The city portion would increase from 2 to 3. Historically, Northport has underperformed in revenue generation. The city relies very heavily on grocery sales tax. We don't have a large, diverse industry base, and we're not terribly unlike other cities our size where we may be considered quasi-bedroom community. And as those of you that were here last time, there's really very few opportunities the state of Alabama gives for revenue generation with respect to the city income. If you'll go to the second slide, one of the things that I was very adamant about was some kind of responsible use of the additional monies. And when I mean responsible, I don't mean just adding to the current budget that's there. However, looking at management of our assets, total targeted growth objectives, citizens' needs, and more importantly, protect operations. Unreasonable or earmarked ideas constrain the flexibility in managing the city budget. And that's not just from my thinking, that also comes from discussion with state representatives. Earmarking can lead to disagreement on how the money is used. It's open for interpretation. And so we're not going to talk about earmarking. We are going to talk about some general concepts where the money's used. Also, if you just deposit it in general fund, which I know is an idea that not everybody likes, nor do I, that just simply says you're going to raise the current spend limit and you don't put any practical usage on that. So what we've done is come up with budgetary buckets. And these buckets are to be generated using the money generated specifically from the tax increase. So the four budget categories, the things that we looked at was, use of minimum and maximum amounts is encouraged. Set a maximum category value that prevents excess fund allocation. The worst thing anybody likes to see is money accumulate and not being used. So one of the ideas we came up with was putting limits on what money could be in a fund before it had to be done with. Automatic council review of the percentages, and that'll make more sense on the next one, but it makes the council have to look at where the buckets the money is going into and make decisions on allocations. The other thing too is that with this kind of thing, proposing a 10-year renewal with a supermajority to revoke, so it still leaves the council the ability at some future date, if circumstances change, and there are some discussions in the state legislature about some changes on the tax code, that you have the ability to revoke this particular tax if it's no longer needed. So these four categories, and I'm going to take responsibility for the terms. So if everybody doesn't like the terms, that's my fault. So the first one was enjoyment. Second one was renew, recycle, rejuvenate, identity, and responsible. And if you'll go over to the next one on enjoyment, one of the things that's very clear with the citizens is that the outdoor activity element, everybody looks at these types of things, and it doesn't matter if we're talking about ballparks, walking paths, bike paths. We've created this enjoyment category, and I believe that as cities grow, one thing that's terribly lost is green space and those types of enjoyment activities. Nobody wants to live in a concrete, just a concrete set of buildings with no green space or trees. So the things we looked at here and under outdoor activities are your outdoor activity recreational areas, which could be parks, sporting venues, nature parks, green spaces, bike paths. You would also look at including in this category cost of cooperative agreements with outside agencies. So if you have a partner that you want to use to create a better, it doesn't matter if it's a park or a bike path or anything like that, that allows you to use some of the money for this. Cost of acquiring, leasing property for sole purpose of those items. We did consider extraordinary maintenance. There are some green spaces or usages that may create extraordinary maintenance items, and I believe that you shouldn't burden regular public works with those extraordinary items that you wouldn't have to do for anything else. And we also included in here that if you decide to relocate historic or civic structure that would enhance that outdoor activity, that would be allowed underneath there. One of the things that was concerned about was allowing money to accumulate, so we as a practical idea, is that the balance could never exceed 10% of the total budget. Excess would go to the other categories or to city reserve. So that would be the outdoor enjoyment. The next category was what we called renew, recycle, rejuvenate. Same kind of allocation. The idea is that you look at what you want to do as a community, and in this case, you know, rejuvenate, remodel, city-owns assets that are commonly used for indoor activities. And I said, i.e., like the community center would be a representative use of these funds. Facade improvement programs. I think we all recognize that when we drive around the city of Northport, there's a lot of buildings that are really old, and they have been that way for years. So we're looking at a facade improvement program. Programs aimed at preserving items of historical value to the city of Northport would be allowed underneath this particular category. I believe that every community in the world is moving towards recycle and waste reduction. I would argue that the recycle program that we got started as a grant fund, that the continuation of this would come out of this particular fund. Recycling helps reduce our carbon footprint, gets rid of trash and things like that. I would also say that you want to put blight removal, community cleanup programs into this particular category. So when we get stuck with condemning buildings or blight removal, that would be allowed here. And the same kind of thought process for the overage. The identity category was thought of as a way to create ideas for Northport's identity, you know, immediate and in the future. And those type of ideas would be streetscapes, as we look at expanding walking paths in various parts of the city, and we investigate how to make a more livable atmosphere. That would be allowed. You know, even programs like Arbor Day, if that's, you know, in some communities, Arbor Day is a rather large activity where they go out and plant thousands of trees. That would be something. We have discussed this ad infinitum, but the city really doesn't have a walkway system, sidewalk system. That would be part of your identity. We have a downtown area, and if we're going to expand the downtown area, it'd be a lot nicer if we could walk to the downtown instead of, you know, struggling for those types of parking space. Looking at the Riverfront District, if purchase of property accelerates that, then you would allow that under this category. And the last thing would be any kind of promotional ideas for the city of Northport. The last category I called responsible. And one of the problems that we have here is that as we all know, Northport has historically not had a balanced budget. And the responsible elements are, I think, your debt service. I'm not advocating that you spend all your money on your debt service, but if you have serviceable debt this year, if you free that debt up later, those monies can go for something else. You're paying interest on debt. And for those of us that are homeowners and car owners and everything else, there's nothing worse than looking at the interest that you're paying that wasn't included in what you paid for. City reserves, I think we have a responsibility to have a city reserve to replace those key items that sometimes cost $1 million. I think if we had major infrastructure issues, it would cost a lot of money, and we don't have the reserves to do that. A specific infrastructure thing, I'm actually proposing a 1-for-1 match on the, excuse me, I'm still trying to shake this, whatever I caught. A 1-for-1 match on the money that we've set aside for the road budget. One of the things we always talk about in this city is that roads aren't paved, we can't get it done. Quite frankly, we have a very limited amount of money to pave, and it doesn't go very far. Anybody that's ever had to pay for paving knows that $500,000 does not go very far. And in a lot of cases, we can't do those secondary things. Mr. Jobson, like milling and things like that, they never get done in the city because we don't have the funds. What we're recommending is a 1-for-1 match in what we currently do now, which is double the budget. We would also, under the event of unusual circumstances, we had to do major projects, you could allocate a 2-for-1 to help handle specific projects. And that would address that specific needs. Our roads get used day in, day out, and they need more attention. And that's where we would add that. We also considered that in the event of a drastic downturn in the economy, I think we all believe, we'd all hope that we never have another 2008, but that's not realistic. If we ever had a drastic downturn in which we had to start laying off or closing vital city services, you would use money from this to do this instead of going negative debt or borrowing money. That just kicks the can down the road, and it just causes somebody else to have to pay for it. You have to be able to balance your budget. And that would also have a 10% budget total. The idea is that, you know, these were the basic buckets we were looking at. We were looking at the language behind how to implement it, how to review it, and that's if we decide to pass the sales tax, that would be worked over the next 2 weeks, hopefully, to straighten out the usage end. But the idea is to not make any city budget item reliant on this particular money, but use it to move ahead instead of just putting it into existing buckets.
All right, thank you, Councilman. Again, I know we jumped a little bit, ladies and gentlemen, from the first reading back to the second reading, but the first reading was done kind of deliberately so we can understand that the usage will be such to where it would be more flexible, as Councilman Roberts pointed out, where if there are needs in specific areas of internal and external, we have that flexibility. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes, sir. It also would lay out some guidelines for how to, if you chose to change it, how to review it, requiring supermajority to move the percentages around, but keeping the money in those buckets to where it can be spent on those ideas and not burden the existing budget.
All right, floor is open for any member of council wanting to offer some remarks or add to what Councilman Roberts has presented to us. Again, a very good presentation, Councilman. So again, I'll open the floor if anybody from council wanted to add to that.
I want to say thank you, Councilman Roberts, for putting all of our ideas on a PowerPoint for everybody to see, and I appreciate all your work on that.
Citizens' ideas too is.
And again, just to clarify, this first reading gives council the time to go back, maybe put some more ideas together, Mayor, in terms of not so much specifics, but using what we use as the framework, what Councilman Roberts kind of mentioned and explained was to just basically use something that we already have currently so we can get some input maybe from citizens, other members of council, so we can add to some of the usage specifics on it. So, again, any further discussions from council or mayor? All right. Again, that was offered up by Councilman Roberts, and we'll jump right back to item 4. Item 4 is a second reading of an ordinance amending section 66-67 and section 70 of the Northport Municipal Code relating to the levy of sales and use taxes in the city limits. Mr. Davis.
At a first reading in April, this simply changes the percentage from 9% total to 10% total, which will change the net receipts from Northport for sales and use tax from 2 cents per dollar to 3 cents per dollar. Ready for a vote by the council tonight if that's your pleasure.
All right. Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt that ordinance?
Into effect.
Go into effect October 1 or shortly thereafter if the state says that we need a little more.
All right. Is there a motion to adopt that ordinance?
I'll make that motion.
That's a motion by Councilman Roberts. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Hogg. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Higginbotham.
Councilman Roberts,
Yes.
Councilman Hogg,
Yes.
President Logan,
Yes.
Councilman Hinton,
Yes.
Councilman Davis.
Yes.
Motion carries.
8B1 is under new business. It's a resolution of a temporary nature. It's a resolution authorizing the mayor's office to enter into an agreement with Next Move Group LLC. Mr. Higginbotham.
Yes, sir. This is the group that you met with last Friday. The intent of this group is to put out a search for your next city administrator. The fiscal impact to the city is approximately $15,000. I believe that's what the contract would be signed for if you move forward with Next Move Group.
All right. Thank you. Is there a motion to approve that resolution?
Make the motion.
That's a motion by Councilman Hinton, second by Councilman Davis. Did I get that right, gentlemen?
Yes, sir.
All right, is there any questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Higginbotham.
Councilman Hinton,
Yes.
Councilman Davis,
Yes.
Councilman Roberts,
Yes.
President Logan,
Yes.
Councilman Hogg.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Second item under new business has been deleted. Third item under new business has been deleted. Fourth item, resolution appointing a city planning director. Mr. Higginbotham.
Yes, sir. This item is on for discussion tonight. If anyone would care to bring forward a name or a consideration for the Director of Planning. You have been with an interim planning director for several months now.
All right, thank you. Is there a member of council want to offer a name up as a resolution appointing a planning director?
I move to approve a resolution appointing Ms. Julie Ram as planning director.
All right, that's a motion by Councilman Hogg appointing Ms. Julie Ram as planning director. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Roberts. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Higginbotham.
Councilman Hogg,
Yes.
Councilman Roberts,
Yes.
President Logan,
Yes.
Councilman Hinton,
Yes.
Councilman Davis.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item C, consent agenda. We have 20 items. They range from minutes of the previous meeting, bill listings, travel and training, 1 p.m.